We have, of course, seen really the yen and the yuan reach multi-year lows. Authorities in both countries have tried to intervene. So what's next?
Probably a bit more of the same. I think that there's a recognition that they can't do everything they want to because the US dollar is so strong. So they have to accept a certain amount of weakness in their currencies, but that won't stop them trying. You'll see more from Japan and you'll see more from China in trying to slow the pace of their currency weakness. That really, for a central bank, the worst thing they want to see is their currency becoming totally a one-way bet to the downside. So they'll bring out various things. As you've seen already this week, the PBOC is bringing in some measures on the forwards to make it more expensive to use those. And we've already seen one round of intervention from Japan. And we'll probably see more of that as long as the dollar stays strong. But they will know that these things are not going to change the direction of their currencies dramatically until they're ready to make big changes to their monetary policy. And neither China or Japan are ready for that. Japan is very committed to its low yield policy. China needs to get its economy back on track, and they need relatively low rates to do so. So they're not going to be able to compete with the US, which is raising rates aggressively. And as you were just saying, looks as though they're going to be continuing to go up well into 2023. So when you have that huge differential, really the currencies have to take the strain, and we may get pauses in the cycle, but for a long time now we're going to have a strong dollar and the rest of the world until the central banks come together collectively and decide that the dollar is too strong. We're not really going to see any big change in that picture.
For sterling, can the BOE actually do anything, or could they actually risk making it worse if they had moved overnight?
Yeah, it's a fine line for the Bank of England to tread, because if they raise rates immediately, the market may shrug and say, well, he didn't do enough, so we're going to continue to sell the pound. Or if they delay it for too long, the market may say, you don't really care about the pound, so we're going to sell it anyway. It's not an easy situation when you have fiscal policy and monetary policies diverging as much as they are in the UK. The central bank really has a difficult job to do. But they will probably come round to the idea that they do have to raise rates significantly, whether they wait until November or whether they do it earlier than that. They're going to have to put rates up by quite a large margin, 100 basis points, 200 basis points. It has to be something very significant. If you look back to periods over the last 20 years or so when the pound has been relatively strong, the interest rate gap between the US and UK yields is pretty wide in favour of the UK. That is not the case at the moment. UK yields are pretty much on a par with the US. There needs to be a significant difference between UK yields and the US in favour of the UK in order to support the pound. Until that's in place, basically the pound is going to be on a downtrend. There will be some rallies like we're seeing today, but when you look at the twin deficits, the current account and the fiscal deficit, and when you look at the difference in rates, really everything is stacked against the pound. And the Bank of England knows it has a very difficult job, but it will have to increase rates substantially, and that will probably begin in November.